The Navy SEAL who stole a boat and started a war. October 1983, Grenada, a Navy SEAL, lieutenant named John, realizes his team is trapped. They're behind enemy lines, Cuban forces are closing in, and extraction is impossible. Their boats were destroyed hours ago. The mission has gone completely sideways. So Lieutenant John does something absolutely insane. He walks up to a random dock, finds a fishing boat, and just takes it. He literally steals a boat, loads his entire SEAL team aboard, and escapes under fire while Cuban soldiers shoot at them from the beach. This shouldn't have worked. This should have ended in capture or death. Instead, it became one of the most audacious escapes in SEAL team history and directly influenced how SEALs would operate for the next 40 years. Today, we're telling the complete story of Operation Urgent Fury, the SEAL mission that went catastrophically wrong, and the boat theft that saved everyone. Hit subscribe because this story is absolutely wild from start to finish. The mission. Let's set the scene. October 1983, Grenada, a tiny island nation in the Caribbean that most Americans couldn't find on a map. A Marxist military coup had seized power. American medical students were trapped on the island. The Reagan administration decided to intervene. The Pentagon planned a multi-service invasion. Army Rangers would secure the airport, Marines would land at multiple points, and Navy SEALs would conduct special operations, reconnaissance, securing objectives, and paving the way for conventional forces. SEAL Team 6 and SEAL Team 4 received different missions. Team 6 would conduct direct action missions. Team 4 would conduct waterborne operations, including securing a radio station and conducting reconnaissance. Lieutenant John's platoon from Team 4 received what seemed like a straightforward mission: conduct underwater reconnaissance of the beach defenses at Pearls Airport, locate obstacles and defensive positions, and report back. Standard SEAL recon stuff. The insertion method: parachute jump from Air Force C-130 aircraft into the ocean at night, rendezvous with boats, conduct the recon, and extract via boat to a waiting submarine offshore. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The jump happened at night in rough seas. The SEALs parachuted from 500 feet into ocean swells that were much larger than intelligence had indicated. Some SEALs landed in the water tangled in their parachutes. Others were separated from the group by strong currents. 4 SEALs drowned during insertion. Their bodies were never recovered. The mission hadn't even started yet, and the team had already lost personnel. The survivors managed to rendezvous, but their boats, Boston whalers dropped separately by parachute, were missing. The boats had either been damaged on impact or drifted away in the current. Either way, the SEALs were now in the water, miles from shore, with no extraction method. They made the decision to swim to shore, several miles in rough seas while carrying combat gear. It took hours. They arrived exhausted, behind schedule, and scattered along the coastline. Everything falls apart. The recon mission was now compromised, but they pressed forward. This is where SEAL training and determination becomes both their greatest asset and their biggest vulnerability. They don't quit even when maybe they should. The team moved inland to observe the airport defenses. They identified numerous defensive positions, anti-aircraft guns, and troop concentrations. This was valuable intelligence, but getting it back to command was now a problem with no boats. They attempted radio communication with the offshore command ship. The radios, soaked during the water insertion, weren't working properly. Communications were intermittent at best. The command ship couldn't get a clear picture of the team's status or location. As dawn approached, the SEALs realized they had a serious problem. Daylight would expose them. They had no extraction plan. And Cuban military forces on the island were now on high alert due to other preliminary operations that had already commenced. The decision was made to hide during daylight and attempt to make contact with friendly forces once the main invasion began. They found a thick jungle area and went to ground, hoping to ride out the day undetected. But Grenadian and Cuban forces were conducting sweeps. Local militia members who knew the terrain were searching systematically. By mid-morning, the SEALs realized enemy forces were closing in on their position. They had to move in broad daylight through hostile territory, With enemy forces, the team split into smaller groups to reduce profile and agreed on a rally point near the coast. If they could reach the water, maybe they could swim out to friendly ships once the invasion fleet arrived. Lieutenant John's group, 6 SEALs, made it to the rally point first. They were positioned near a small coastal village, observing a dock where several fishing boats were moored. Cuban military vehicles were visible in the distance, conducting patrols. That's when John had his crazy idea. Steal a boat. The Great Escape. Let's be clear about how insane this plan was. They were Navy SEALs trained in underwater operations, not boat theft. The boats were in a civilian area with enemy patrols nearby. They had no keys, no knowledge of how these specific boats operated, and no guarantee the boats even had fuel. But staying on land meant certain capture or death, so they did it anyway. The approach was classic SEAL. Fast and violent. They moved quickly down to the dock, weapons ready, covering each other. Local civilians saw them but were too shocked to react immediately. John identified the best boat, a medium-sized fishing vessel that looked seaworthy and had visible fuel tanks. The team piled aboard. John found the engine ignition. These weren't sophisticated boats with complex security systems. They were working fishing boats designed for simplicity. He hot-wired the engine. The diesel coughed, sputtered, and roared to life. The noise attracted immediate attention. Shouts from the village. Cuban soldiers appeared, running toward the dock. The SEALs cast off lines and the boat lurched away from the dock. Gunfire erupted. AK-47 rounds snapped past, some impacting the boat's hull and superstructure. The SEALs returned fire, suppressing the Cuban positions while John steered the boat toward open water. More soldiers appeared on the beach, firing as the boat accelerated. One SEAL was hit in the arm, not life-threatening, but painful and bleeding. Another SEAL took over his weapon while a teammate applied pressure to the wound. The boat was taking hits. The wooden hull couldn't stop bullets. Rounds punched through, creating leaks. One round shattered the windscreen. Another hit the engine housing, causing smoke, but miraculously not stopping the motor. John pushed the throttle to maximum. The boat was designed for fishing, not speed, but it was moving away from shore. The distance increased 100 meters, 200 meters, 500 meters. The gunfire became less accurate and eventually stopped as they moved out of effective range. They were free. Sort of. Now they were in a stolen fishing boat in hostile waters with no clear destination during an active military invasion. But at least they weren't captured or dead. The aftermath. The SEALs navigated away from Grenada using a compass and John's navigational knowledge. They needed to find friendly naval forces, but couldn't use radio to announce their position, because they might be engaged by U.S. ships as a potentially hostile vessel. After several hours, they spotted American warships on the horizon. The challenge now was identifying themselves without getting blown out of the water. They rigged an American flag from cloth they had and waved it vigorously while approaching slowly. A U.S. Navy destroyer challenged them via radio and loudspeaker. The SEALs identified themselves and were eventually recognized. They were brought aboard the destroyer, debriefed, and treated for injuries. The intelligence they provided was valuable, but the mission was officially considered a partial failure. 4 SEALs had died during insertion. The team had been forced to break contact and exfiltrate via stolen vessel. The mission also highlighted the incredible adaptability and determination of SEAL operators. When everything went wrong, they adapted. When extraction failed, they improvised. When capture seemed certain, they found another way out. Lieutenant John received no official recognition for the boat theft because acknowledging it would mean admitting the team stole civilian property during combat operations. But within the SEAL community, the story became legendary, a perfect example of thinking outside the box and refusing to quit. The incident also influenced small boat training. SEALs began training on a wider variety of watercraft, learning how to operate and even steal different boat types. This training paid off in future operations where SEALs needed to commandeer vessels. Operation Urgent Fury in Grenada was a military success overall. American students were rescued and the Marxist government was removed. But for the SEALs involved, it was a mixture of tragedy and triumph. 4 SEALs died during insertion, heroes who gave their lives attempting a dangerous mission. Their sacrifices remembered and honored within the SEAL community. But the survivors demonstrated the core SEAL qualities: adaptability, determination, and refusal to surrender. When faced with impossible circumstances, they didn't give up. They stole a fishing boat and fought their way to freedom. Lieutenant John's crazy decision to just take a boat saved his entire team. Sometimes the best tactical decision isn't in the manual. It's whatever works in that specific moment. If this story of SEAL improvisation and survival inspired you, smash that like button and subscribe for more special operations content. Comment below, what would you have done in that situation? Share this video to spread this incredible story. Until next time, stay adaptable and never quit.